All right, Panther fans. So, like I said in my season preview this morning, welcome to season 8 here on Flying Fluffy of Florida Panthers coverage. And with that, I'm going to go back to bed, and Stu and Randy are going to have a good conversation here.
making
Hi guys,
his
how are you?
making his 2023-2024 30th anniversary season debut. Don't even have to say his name. Welcome aboard, my friend. How's it going?
It's going good, guys. Yeah, I'm excited. Like all of us, we're all excited. Even though it was um, arguably the shortest off season that the Panthers have ever had,
Yeah.
going back to '96. But once August started coming into August and that, and then you start feeling it again, and pieces of the puzzle, and who's going to be invited to training camp, and you could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's when I start getting excited. And it's kind of the dog days for us, especially down here in South Florida, where it's so
Yeah.
brutally warm and humid and that in August. And then we turn into September, and now we got rookie camp, and now we can go and smell the ice and that, and then get through training camp and the preseason, and here we are knocking on the
Yep.
door, ready to go.
Yep. So, I know Stu's got a lot of stuff lined up, but I want to start where we finished. So, Maurice says he cried for about 2 months. And I know that's true because I still can't talk about it without getting a little tear. So, just give us a little picture of Randy Moller when it was over, and how did that all end up processing for you? Because obviously, with you being part of the team and former player, it's different for you. But I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was bittersweet. As I've mentioned so many times, and we've rehashed this thing over, of what happened last spring into last summer into June, and I'm extremely proud of this hockey club and how they came together, and the moments and the fractions of when they did come together and got some momentum, and then once they got into the playoffs and they're down 3 games to 1 to Boston, but um, how they battle back, and players that, like, the Loistranens and the Nick Cousins, and some of these players that just up their play, and the Stahl brothers, and how they put it all together. It was bittersweet because, and I think everybody knows, even if you've never played the game and you're a diehard fan, like everybody's watching the Panthers, when you get that close, 95 of the percent of players never get that close again. So
Oh,
even though they didn't get to the ultimate goal of winning the Stanley Cup, there's so many attributes from that team, and especially in the playoffs, that I think everybody can be proud of. And congratulations again to the Vegas Golden Knights. But there was some situation, and not excuses. There's no excuses, but I think the Panthers, we all agree, ran out of gas. The injuries caught up to them, and major injuries that we're
yeah.
we're, we're seeing today. The effects of it with Ekblad and Montour. Kachuk was just getting ready right before training camp started. Um, Bennett, a lot of these players were pretty banged up. They ran out of gas. The injuries caught up to them. And that's sometimes, guys, that's what it takes. You saw the Vegas Golden Knights. They never had any injuries at all. I mean, Eichel, that got
Right.
hit from Kachuk, might have missed some games. He came right back. Good on him. But they never, and that machine, that Vegas machine, once we got into that second game of the playoffs, and that, you could see that they were so tough to play against. Congratulations to them, but the Panthers, they got nothing to hang their head about. Congratulations to them and that. But I think too, guys, it planted a little seed that the players, coaches, everybody involved with hockey operations, that if you do get the odd break, if you do get a little bit fortunate on the injury side, luck of the schedule, your opponent, a hot goaltender, special teams, and this, it can come together, and it can be something that's really special.
Yep. Yep. So, all right, Stu, take it away, brother.
Yeah, well, couldn't have said it better myself. But that season's over, and now we got to focus on coming right back. I don't want it to be a season where we went so far and then we take a couple of slides backwards. I'm gonna ask what you think of Zito's moves during the summer for those that were not really on top of things. Both on the acquisitions and the guys that are no longer with us. What stands out to you as like the biggest one going
Well,
down the list?
I think they reacted very well in plugging some holes and bringing in some players that, I mean, we have to face the reality that Aaron Ekblad and Montour are not going to start the season. We're hearing the end of November, first part of December, and what have you. But as the old saying goes, you can't you can't gain a playoff spot in October and November, but you can sure as hell lose it. Ask the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings and some of these teams that have really St. Louis Blues last year and that. So bringing in the players that they did, I think it's a reality. And I'm not trying to skirt your question, Stu. I think I'm a firm believer that this game of the NHL, there's such a minute difference between wins and losses on a regular basis. And I'll add to that I think Buffalo is much improved in what they went through last year, where they really were at that point where they could have just taken off, but they kind of stumbled back, and we know what happened. The Ottawa Senators. Well, both those teams are in the Panthers division. You know they're going to be better. You know there's so much teams that are so similar that it can take an injury or a bad road trip or inconsistent play for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever to basically you're going to just tumble right back out of it. And I think the Panthers, they have to play a steady style. You look at their schedule, and even the first 30 games or whatever, they're going to go out west and up north a couple times and out west the majority of their western. Once they get into the second half of the season, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for them to really hit their stride, gain a playoff spot. It doesn't matter where you finish in the playoff spot. Right. Just get in, because you're going to have to face tough teams sooner or later, and they'll be fine. It's a reality, though. Without 2 of your top 4 defensemen, they're not going to start the season. That are big minute munchers that play an awful lot. A lot of eyes are going to be on the Florida Panthers, especially the back end, their defense. And Bob is going to have to be great, not fantastic. He's just got to be solid, make the saves that he can make. And the team is going to have to play in front of him. A very smart, disciplined style, aggressive but smart and disciplined, staying out of the penalty box. And I think that Paul Maurice, the head coach, is going to have this team ready and have their mindset of, hey, guys, even though we went to the finals last year, we're not the number 2 team in the NHL right now to start the season. We're one of the better teams, but we've got to play the type of game that's going to allow us the success early on in order for us to get through kind of the dog days here, the first 30 games of the season.
Right. So you mentioned Bob, so I figure I will ask you now. The Spencer Knight situation, obviously everybody's happy to see he's back and looking good. Do you think the length of time he's in the AHL has more to do with his play, or do you think if Stolarz can handle things, they're going to let Knight run as the number 1 in the AHL for as long as they can?
I think it's going to be pretty fluid. I don't think they've made on this date we're going to reevaluate and that. there's a lot of little nuances in this whole thing. Number one is, hey, we all agree we're glad that Spencer's back. He got the help that he needed. He looks fantastic. He played well in training camp and preseason. But this is a young man that the Florida Panthers are not. They're not. What's the right terminology here? They're not pushing for Spencer Knight to win 5 games in a row for the Florida Panthers in the end of November.
Right.
They're looking at Spencer Knight as being their number one netminder 8 years from now as their number one. They're looking long term, and they want to make sure that they do right by Spencer, do right by the team. He has to play some games. He has not played a whole lot. Get him down in the AHL and get his timing down, get his reps in, and get into a routine. And that we all know the talent level of this young man. He's only 22 years old, or 21, 22 years old, that he's got all the tools and that. Just let him play, and without the pressure. And the other thing too, if you're committed to Sergei Bobrovsky to play 5 of the first 6 games of the season, why have Spencer sitting on the bench?
Right.
And that, so it's all, they make these decisions as an organization, not so much short term, but long term. And they want to make sure that Spencer Knight is the number one goaltender for the Florida Panthers, which they see in 4 or 5 years, or maybe even sooner. You don't know. But the old saying, guys, when you draft players and you're monitoring their development, you don't want them being on your team for the first 2 years as a 19 and 20-year-old, and then you never see them again. You want to make sure that they are a big, integral part of your team 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And players take different routes on how they develop. Some are ready for it. Some aren't ready for it. But I think it's a good story. And I'm happy for Spencer to, he earned that contract that he got, that extension that he got, and that now he can just go down to Charlotte for how long he's going to be there. Who knows?
Right.
Show that he's one of the best young goaltenders in the world, and then it'll all take care of itself in the long run.
Yep. So, and look, before I let Stu jump in, I mean, how many goaltenders did Vegas use? I mean, Aiden Hill was like number 5. So at some point, everybody is going to play. But yeah. Okay, go ahead, Stu.
No, it's exactly what, we talked about, you and I, Eric, the other day. This is exactly the scenario. He's got to play. Having him sit on the bench, game after game after game, watch him, but it does no good for him. He needs to play. And, like you said, 22 years old. And look at Jacob Markstrom, right? We gave up on him because, we rushed him and he didn't look good when we had him in there. And, of course, just flash forward a few years, and now he's one of the top goalies in the league. So, if he could just play at the level that we're used to seeing him play, my thinking is that they're going to bring him up after the All-Star break, depending on how Solars does as Bob's backup. But, the big thing for me is not burning Bob out, and I think there's like too many games when, where I think it was maybe one game too many that Bob should have been sat to give him some rest. But yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of guys. There's so much pressure to win now that sometimes it clouds people's heads, and that we got to get off to a great start. We were one of the best teams. We went to the finals last year, and we've got to go 10-1 and 10-1 or whatever to start the season. But you got to sit back, and it's very difficult because you get into human nature. You got to look back and take in every consideration on health of your players, as you mentioned, Stu, rest of your players, the depth of your players, of your team, of your organization. I think the Panthers have a real handle on all this. There's nothing that surprises them. they're looking short term, mid-term, long term, 2 years, 5 years. They're looking 10 years down the road, how this organization is going to be. And that's what they're responsible for. So even if the Panthers, God forbid, they get off to kind of a shaky start, you just got to look at the big picture. And we've been through this before, and especially last year, that when it's really time to go, that you've got all your horses now. I just hope that the Panthers and their key players, and especially once they get Ekblad and Montour back, that they get on a little, they get some help on the luck side, that they stay away from major injuries of some of their key players, because it's devastating to lose those type of players. But I think the Panthers' overall depth, both at the forwards and at the defense, I think they're very well equipped to start the season and get going.
So one guy that I'm sure Stu wants to ask about, and the fan base is happy about, is Mackie Samoskevich. And so just give us your thoughts on him, and the likelihood, in your opinion, from what you've seen and what you know, that he's here to stay versus he's going to get those 8 or 9 games and then be sent back.
Well, he's kind of a special story. I've watched him very closely in training camp and in the preseason. This kid has got all the skill. He has got the great hands, handles the puck and that. But for young players, and Paul Maurice was talking about this post-practice to us a couple of days ago, that it's the mindset of young players. Even though if they've got very gifted offensive skills, handling the puck, making moves and that, and have the confidence, which he does, and that, but it's always in their mindset. They don't want to be the player that turns the puck over in their own zone and you get scored on. So they're kind of looking, and they're kind of conscious of making the right play. And maybe if when he was in college last year, he would have skated the puck out, this one just put it off the glass and make the safe play, and that's natural. But what they really like about this player is he's got a way above average skill. I mean, he is extraordinary skilled. But then he goes into that category where you got to be careful with him. You don't want him playing on the fourth line 5 minutes a night. In order for him to shine, because of the skill set, you've got to play him in the top 3 lines, and that's where they'll have him. We'll see how it turns out. I think he can handle it. I'm very bullish on Samoskevich and that. I think he's got the right mindset. I think he's a very mature young man, and that. So again, there's another one where they want to make sure that, with lack of a better term, that they protect him and protect his confidence and his skill set going forward. Because guess what, guys? He could be a big part of this organization for years and years to come. He's a special player.
Yeah.
He's Anton Lundell 2.0. The thing that impressed me the most with him is his hockey IQ. And like you said, Rand, about, taking the safe route and dumping it in, guys that have that IQ, that see the chessboard, that, it looked to me, but watching him, even in that first game, he was already, thinking 2 moves ahead. And, those are the guys that stick around. I like the fact that that Maurice has him slotted with Lundell rather than with Bennett and Chucky. I think that, that third line, the combo with Lundy and Reinhardt, I think is going to be better for him than it would have been for Bennett. I just think the 2 young kids together, they kind of seem to be speaking the same language. They kind of seem to know where each other's are. And I told Eric the other day, I wouldn't be surprised seeing the kid get a goal in the first game.
Yeah. And you brought up Anton Lundell. He's put on some weight. You can tell he's a lot stronger. And when you get the strength and now he's got experience, you get the confidence in that. The one thing that stood out in the preseason. I don't know if you guys watched on the stream or not. They're playing at home against, I think it was Carolina.
Yeah.
And Lundell stopped in front of the net, and guy kind of gave him a little bit of a cross check or whatever.
He spanked him.
He turned around and just walloped this guy and knocked him right over. Way to go, Anton.
Yeah. You didn't see that. You didn't see that last year.
That's part of his, he now knows that he belongs in the NHL. He's an important player. He's gained some strength, some confidence in that, and he's not going to take it. And that's great to see. I thought that was one of the highlights of the preseason was the way, and not only some of the goals that he scored and the plays that he set up, but sticking up for himself and that. I think that's showing a real maturity and an evolution of a young player.
Yep. And on that note, especially from what we've seen from year to year, and then including what we've seen so far with this preseason from Eetu Luostarinen, I mean, the sky is the limit for this kid. He looks like he got a lot faster over the summer. I don't know if that's just my imagination or what, but he looks ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. There's those young players that have really taken a step up. Loisty, I think, is another one that had a terrific training camp and preseason, and he's so versatile. He can play center, he can play wing, he can play up, play down. He kills penalties, and that he can play now on the power play. He's got the gift with the hands and that. So another important player that's looking to take their game even to another level. Lundell and Luostarinen take their game to another level, and that's what the Panthers are hoping for. And I know the fans, they're two fan favorites, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I want to see how the lines, pan out and the chemistry. I think, we kind of have an idea who's going to be playing with each other. So we'll just have to see how things progress after, 5-10 games. Like you said at the beginning, and we've all talked about, the big thing for us this year is the defense, especially with Eki and Montour being out. I personally am feeling pretty good with what we have, and the guys that Zito went out and got. Oliver Ekman-Larkman is, again, I've said this on the podcast before. I always liked this kid in Arizona. He's had a couple of down years, and I have a feeling it's going to be another one of those, Sam Bennett resurgence. I see him taking more of a leadership role. Obviously, if he QB's the power play, I think him and Forsling are going to be a great top pair. And I wanted to get your opinion not only on Ekman Lawson, but Mikkola and Riley and the other guys that we picked up.
Yeah, you go by what the team says, and obviously they're very bullish on these players. Oliver Ekman-Larsson has the majority of his career. I mean, he's played over 900 games in the NHL, so he has been around. And that, yes, I think a new scenario, maybe if you can call it a fresh start, and playing on this team, he has really fit in. He's happy. He knows what the game, what his game is, and the Panthers know what his game is, and that is moving the puck and quarterback in the power play, and that almost like a Yandel when Keith Yandel first came to the Florida Panthers. He can move the puck, he jumps into the play, and so that's what they're hoping for him. Yeah. Nico Mikkola, he's a big man. He's 6'5", and he's got a little bit of a mean streak to him, and he likes to play a physical game. I think that's exactly what the Panthers need. Use that size out in front of the net. Not try and do too much. Move the puck, follow up, and have what they call a clean game. They have all the tools to do that, and I think, you're not going to replace an Aaron Ekblad or a Brandon Montour. You're not going to replace them, but I think the Panthers have done themselves well by the players that they have that are going to start the season. Then let's just see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing how Josh Mahura does. He really took a step towards the end of last season and in the playoffs, and he was, forced into some really key minutes, and not only 5-on-5, but on penalty kill and what have you. And he should feel very confident in his ability to really add something to the team at the start of this year. He's going to be counted on, guys. He's going to Josh Mahura, even though he was a waiver pickup last year. He's proven that he's an NHL player on a regular basis, and I like the way he plays the game and the way he moves that puck. He's got to do the same thing as where he left off in the playoffs.
Speaking of pickups, the one guy that has impressed me, that I'm not saying he looks like Forsling, but it reminds me of when Forsling came here and we were kind of like, who is this guy? How is he free? And that's Belinsky's. Because he beat out everybody for the seven. He beat out everybody. Fitzgerald, Carlson, Kiersted. So what do you know about him? Because most of us are kind of like, who, huh, what?
Yeah, it's his first time playing over here in North America. He's from Latvia, and he's played over in Europe for a number of years. But I didn't know much about him either. And we're all the old Google and hockey DB. There's okay, where is this? Who is this guy?
Who's this guy?
And that, but he's been very steady. He's almost like for old Panther fans, to me, he's almost like a Robert Svela type player.
Ooh.
Just about
pretty solid. He's really solid, and he plays an aggressive game. He finishes his check. He wins a lot of puck battles and that. And as long as he plays that game, he's going to get it. He's going to get an opportunity as well. I'm not going to say that I know a whole bunch about him. All I have is just what I've seen in practice and a handful of preseason games that he's played in. But he looks like the real deal. They say he was really strong and a top player over in Europe last year. So that's good enough for me. Come on in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that he came over early, well before training camp, to get to know the area, and obviously the humidity and the heat down here, and skate and train with the players and with the guys here. I think that really shows that, and he's a mature guy. He's 27 years old, although he was never drafted. He's 27. He's not coming over as a 20 or 21-year-old. He's played some high level hockey and that Olympics and that kind of stuff.
Yep, sounds good.
That's wild. Wouldn't that be like just fitting for him to be like the sleeper star of the team this year? All right, so inquiring minds want to know, how was your first encounter with Kulikov? What did you guys say to each other when you first saw him after he came back?
Well, it was actually only a couple days ago.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And after practice, I went in the locker room and we looked at each other and started killing ourselves laughing. Dmitry Kulikov played he was drafted here 2009, 14th overall. Started the season, played his first few years here and that. And he's played for 7 teams since that. So he's come full circle. But anyways, it was great. After we stopped laughing and we had a nice hug and I said, "Oh, you're welcome back," or whatever. He's always kept the house down here. Right. He's got a house in Boca Raton and that, and he's got a family now and that and the maturity and that. He knows what he's here for. And same thing. Move the puck, play aggressive, have some great shifts and that. But it's nice. He's so comfortable now. He said he's just elated. His family is so happy to be here. And that plays a lot into the psyche of a player that comes in. And you're comfortable, you're happy, you think you fit in with your teammates and your team, and that the sky's the limit. And I know he's excited about starting the season.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got you here. I would be remiss if we didn't ask you. We know you already think the Panthers are going to win the Cup. We know that. But who else in the East is going to be good? What do you see? And explain to me why everybody is picking Ottawa over Buffalo. Are we just biased because we traded Devon Levi, or am I wrong there?
Well, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a weird noise. But
I think both Ottawa and Buffalo, and I'm not trying to skirt the issue, I think both of them are going to be better, more improved.
Right.
I think both of them are right on the cusp that they can really take off. Ottawa, for some reason, it just seems like over the last, you guys remember, last couple 3 years, they get off to a pretty good start. Things are going well or whatever, and then all of a sudden they go and they win like one game in December, and they're like, and they just put themselves out of the playoff race. And that,
Yeah.
if they can play some consistency, I think the besides the Panthers and Toronto, I think the two best teams in the East are New Jersey and Carolina.
Yeah.
They proved it last year, especially in the regular season. Carolina is very solid, and New Jersey is so fast and so talented. That is my group of four. Toronto, the Panthers, New Jersey, and Carolina. I think those are my top four teams in the Eastern Conference. No disrespect to some of the other teams. I think the Vasilevsky injury is going to not be a positive for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think the Boston Bruins are not as good a team as they were last year, and that could affect their start to the season. I think I'm not quite sure where their Rangers are going right now. Right. The Islanders seem to be stuck in mud. Not going. Pittsburgh is aging. The health of their team, and so you take a look at. I don't think Detroit's ready for prime time yet in our division. Who am I missing now?
Washington.
Well, I think Ovi's going to get 45 goals, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And that, so I think Toronto's going to be really strong. I don't think Montreal's ready to make that push as well.
Right.
I think the Flyers are still a few years away, and I think the majority of the so-called experts, and I don't consider myself an expert, they all agree that what we talked about, those three teams. I think Columbus is trying to rebuild as well. So there's kind of the Eastern Conference for me, and I'll stick with that. I think the top four teams are the Panthers and Toronto, Devils, and Carolina.
Yep.
Which is basically, Eric, what you and I kind of said.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of cut and dry. The only exception being if Tampa can somehow survive without Vasilevsky. If Jonas Johansson turns into Alex Lyon for 2 months, Randy's laughing.
I'm laughing too. Remember the other night I asked you, is that the same kid that looked like Swiss cheese when we had him?
Yeah, and he shut us out in the
you know what? That was tough on him. He didn't really get a chance and didn't play too much when he was here. Hey, good on him. He looked pretty good in that final preseason game against the Panthers. I was at the game, and he's a big guy, and hopefully he can play well for Tampa. You hope the best for him, but I think that the Eastern Conference guys is so competitive. Remember, just even a couple of years ago, there were all those gimme games that we would play, that the top teams would play, and you knew who the top four were going to be. It's going to, in our division, it's going to be Toronto, the Panthers, Tampa Bay, and Boston. And then everybody else was now it is those teams are starting to, especially Ottawa and Buffalo, are moving up and I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo is in the top four in the Eastern Conference after the 40-game mark. I won't be surprised if they get the goaltending. If they get the goaltending and I know I got lots of friends back in Buffalo and their media and that they're very bullish on the Sabres if they can play to their capabilities.
Yeah, maybe it's the Miami Dolphins fan of me that is worried about Buffalo. That might be it. 40 years of losing at Buffalo. I hear Buffalo is good. I'm like, wait, what? It's like there's ghosts behind me. So all right, you got anything else, Stu? You're good.
No,
all right.
I'm really excited. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting first few games of the season. hopefully there'll be some games where we look like you said, Eric, a hybrid of last year's toughness grind, in addition to the year before President's Trophy team where we had showtime. If we can find that balance, because I do believe we're going to have to be scoring more goals this season, to kind of offset whatever defensive deficiencies we might have. And Bob's just got to, like you said, Randy, he doesn't have to be fantastic every night. He just has to be very good and not be sloppy with those, first minute 5-hole goals that we've known him to give up. And I think if we get him 4 goals a night, we're going to have a good winning record.
Sounds
I
good.
agree. Yep. I think Bob is ready to go mentally, physically, and he loves the workload. You know that. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it, guys. I'm excited for the fans. They had a great run last year. There'll be a few ups and downs this year, but in the end, it doesn't matter you finish first or you're finishing a wild card. You just got to make the playoffs, and we'll all have fun. And I look forward to being back on with you guys very soon.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
As always, man. You're the best.
All right, everybody, this concludes our show. Thank you for watching the 3 best-looking Florida Panther fans on YouTube, and we will see you all again. Well, Stu and I, what's today? Today's Tuesday. Stu and I will see you again soon, and I'll see
Friday.
Huh?
Friday.
Well, Stu and I will see you Friday. I'll see you Thursday, but I'll see the members tomorrow with the members-only podcast.
It's so confusing, but do hit the subscribe button, and if you like this video, which I know you guys always say you love when Randy's on, so hit the freaking like button, all right?
Hit the freaking like button.
And comments.
I got to get a shirt with Stu's face that says hit the freaking like button. That's actually pretty
Thanks
good.
a lot, Rand. We love
Thanks,
you, man.
Randy. All right.